It's a beautiful Friday because the Mariners are back and Julio is back. Thanks for hanging out with us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. We got more prospect talk and we're answering a couple more of your questions coming up. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Locked On Mariners podcast, brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered all season long with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline is where the game starts. It is Friday, August 12th, 2022, and thank you so much for making us your listen of the day. We are free and available on all platforms with new episodes dropping every Monday through Friday. I am your host, Ty Gonzalez, joined as always by my co-host Colby Patnode. We cover the Mariners over at InsideTheMariners.com for Fan Nation over on the Sports Illustrated Network. Be sure to follow the show on Twitter at LO_Mariners. Follow Inside the Mariners at Inside Mariners. You can follow me at Dane Gonzalez, that's DANEGNZLZ, and Colby at CPAT11, that's CPAT11. Be sure to also check out our Patreon over at patreon.com/control the zone. We post 2 additional podcasts on there every single week. Again, that is patreon.com/control the zone. And if this is your first time joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast, welcome to the show. If you like what you hear, give us a follow or subscribe wherever you're listening to this. And if you're watching us on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and give this video a thumbs up. We greatly appreciate it. So Julio is back. We had some roster moves made right after we hopped off the mics yesterday. A rare off-day roster move from the Mariners. Julio Rodriguez is back, activated off of the 10-day injured list. Jarred Kelenic goes down. But on top of that, Curt Casali, deadline acquisition from the San Francisco Giants, newest Mariners backup catcher, has been activated from the injured list as well. And unfortunately with that means that Luis Torrens's time in Seattle, as expected, has come to an end. He has been designated for assignment. There is the off chance that he could return to the organization if he clears waivers, but considering that he's still in his mid-20s, he's a catcher, he's still kind of interesting, I'd be pretty surprised if he ended up clearing waivers. So it's possible, very possible here, that Luis Torrens's time in Seattle has officially come to an end. We're going to be talking some prospects later. Colby's going to be doing prospects 20 through 16 in the Mariners farm system. We're also going to answer a couple of leftover questions from yesterday's mailbag episode. But let's talk about Julio coming back. We get to watch Julio Rodriguez play baseball tonight, and that's an amazing thing. And this lineup is as close to full strength as it could possibly be. We'll see about Jesse Winker, but Winker did not go on the IL as the corresponding move for Julio coming up. So it's possible that there's some good news on Winker's front with the back spasms. So let's just talk about what Julio does here for this lineup, which has struggled mightily over the last, week or so to consistently score runs. What does Julio do for this team?
Well, he provides punch at the top. He lengthens the lineup, kind of reshuffles guys back into their rightful place in the lineup, so to speak. He also provides the good center field defense that the Mariners have missed. Kelenic mostly handled center field. He was okay. But obviously a good center fielder makes your left fielder and your right fielder better. And Julio does that. He also provides some speed, which the Mariners lack. It's pretty much Haggerty and Julio, and then like a clear step down, and then it's Moore, and then honestly kind of a clear step down, and then it's JP and Adam Frazier. So the Mariners need some speed, they need some defense, and they need some more punch in this lineup, and they add all three. It'll be interesting to see how much power Julio has. Wrist injuries, even when the guy is 100% healthy, they tend to linger. There tends to be some power outage for a little while after. I'd also be interested to see how aggressive he is on the bases. Julio slides head first every time, and obviously that puts a tremendous amount of strain on your wrist. So it's going to be one of those things where I think, obviously he'll help. I'm curious what type of player Julio is going to be at the plate. Is he going to be aggressive on the bases? He only attempted one steal since like July 5th. And it happened that he hurt his wrist on that play. So it's one of those things where I don't know if you're getting the full 100% Julio Rodriguez, but only like 80% Julio still helps this team. And, Julio's kind of a freak. So maybe you do get 100% Julio Rodriguez.
That'd be amazing.
Knows? Yeah, we'll see. And that could be the difference maker, because Julio there for the last, month and a half has been playing like a MVP candidate, not just a rookie of the year guy. So
yeah,
we'll see what version of him we get. It might take him a couple days to get his timing back. So I wouldn't read too much into anything that happens in this series. But hopefully by Monday, Tuesday, heading into the next homestand, he'll have his timing back and he'll be ready to go.
And he loves playing in this ballpark down in Arlington. So good place for him to kick things back off. Let's talk about Curt Casali here and what he does for this ball club and what he does for Cal Raleigh's legs. Before we started recording, we were saying Cal Raleigh's quads, his calves, his knees, everything are thanking the heavens that Curt Casali is here, because now the Mariners have a legitimate backup catcher, which unfortunately Luis Torrens was not for the most part this year. So Casali, of course, is Luis Castillo's former battery mate in Cincinnati. I would venture to guess that he will be catching Castillo on Monday against the Angels. But I would also venture to guess that we're going to see Casali in the lineup more often than we saw Torrens, and that, by extension is going to give Cal Raleigh some much needed time. So that's huge, right?
Yeah, it is. Casali, as much as I've been a Luis Torrens defender, I still think he's going to hit, by the way. Like, I'm still not giving up on Luis Torrens. But Casali is just better at everything across the board right now. It's really not close. It's a massive upgrade. It takes some time off. My guess is we'll see Casali on Saturday, and then Cal will catch the day game on Sunday, and then Casali will catch Castillo on Monday. So my guess is we'll see Casali tomorrow, Cal tonight. I do wonder if maybe, just maybe, I know they've been hesitant to do this in the past, but would Scott consider DHing Cal Raleigh when Casali catches?
Yeah.
Not every time, but every once in a while, because Raleigh's bat, the left-handed power that he brings is something you need in this lineup. And so I do wonder if maybe it's possible we see Casali at catcher on Saturday, like Casali at catcher, Raleigh at DH, and France. And obviously this depends. Does Haniger need the DH that day? Does Winker need the DH that day? Then Raleigh's probably out. But just, from the catcher perspective, Casali is a guy you can start 3 times a week and feel fine. It's not a dark hole in the lineup. It's not, it's not Andrew Knapp back there defensively, right? It's like a legitimate major league catcher, who also, by the way, crushes left-handed pitching. So if you're in a tight spot late in the game and you need a right-handed bat, Casali's a pretty good answer. So we'll see how aggressive they want to be with the 2 catchers. Traditionally, they've stayed away from that second catcher, using that second catcher at all cost. He's always the last guy on the bench. But we're 50 games to go, 49 games to go. It's go time. Sometimes you got to take a risk, and if that means you have to play with the pitcher because you have to forfeit the DH to put Cal Raleigh behind the plate, then so be it. You figure it out from there.
Yeah, and I mean, they haven't shied away from doing that. They did that in Tuesday's 13-inning affair. So, and it worked out pretty well for them too. It's a pretty smart move by Scott Service. So let's move on. Let's talk some prospects. You're ranking prospects 20 through 16 in the Mariners farm system in just a moment. But real quick, a reminder, this episode of Locked On Mariners is brought to you by Liver Health Formula. Did you know the key to sustainable weight loss is through your liver? The liver is the body's metabolic furnace. It's responsible for flushing out harmful toxins and igniting your fat-burning metabolism. But thanks to modern diets rich in unhealthy processed foods and constant exposure exposure to thousands of man-made and environmental toxins, most of us have overworked livers. But now it's easy to rejuvenate your liver health and reignite your metabolism thanks to Liver Health Formula by Pure Health Research. Liver Health Formula contains 8 liver-boosting super nutrients like turmeric, beet, and artichoke extract, all of which work together to wake up a sluggish liver and turn it into a toxin-flushing and fat-burning machine. No more bloated belly, no more uncomfortable digestion, no more feeling tired and low on energy all the time, and best of all, Liver Health Formula makes it easier to maintain a healthy body weight long term. As a listener of our show, you can try Liver Health Formula risk-free today and get a free bottle of Curb Fit with your order. Curb Fit is a safe and all-natural appetite suppressant, making it easy to say no to unhealthy foods. This makes it the perfect complement to Liver Health Formula. Go to getliverhelp.com/MLB to learn more. Again, that's getliverhelp.com/MLB to try Liver Health Formula completely risk-free and claim your free bottle of Curb Fit with your order. Go to getliverhelp.com/MLB now to get started. You're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. Thank you again for making us your first listen of the day, just like you do here every single day. Let's get into these prospects. We are continuing prospect week, which is going to bleed into next week because things kind of got off the rails here at Locked On Mariners. But let's continue here with prospects number 20 through 16 as determined by one Colby Patnode. Starting at number 20, Isaiah Campbell. Right-handed pitcher who's now converted to the bullpen, and he's looking really good post-surgery. 24 years old now. He's at Double-A Arkansas. Recently got that promotion. What has Campbell been able to do this year to land him back in your top 30 list?
Yeah, the conversion to the bullpen certainly seems to have reignited some of the stuff of Isaiah Campbell. He's up to 98 with the fastball. And the slider is shown plus at times. Right now, it's probably a 55 grade pitch. At times, it's flashed 60, even 65. What's interesting about Campbell is that when he was drafted, his best pitch was actually a split change, and that was a plus pitch for him. He's not throwing it this year. Now, that might be a result of the elbow surgery and him not wanting to push things right now. So it's entirely possible that the split change will emerge again next year. And if it does, Campbell's a guy who's going to have 3 legitimate out pitches. Still has work to do. The slider can get flattened out on him sometimes. There's not a tremendous amount of run on the fastball. It's a pretty straight pitch, so he has to do something to generate fastball value. 98 and flat is not going to cut it. So, but I do think adding that changeup back could help the fastball even more. So I'm interested to see where he goes with the split change next year. Kind of makes sense that he's not throwing it this year coming off of the elbow surgery, but I think next year that's a pitch he really needs to reintroduce. And if he does to some success, we're looking at a high leverage closer type reliever here because he throws plenty of strikes and the stuff is good enough if he can find a little more consistency with the slider and bring back the split change. There's a reason he's not in the top 15. It's because he still has these things to work on just to be a really good closer. But I think he can get there. And I've always been high on Isaiah Campbell from draft day until today. So it's not surprising that I found a way to put him on this list.
Yeah. Love the call too, because he has been great this year and he might appear in the Mariners bullpen next season. So got to keep an eye out for that. All right, coming in at number 19, the man who the Mariners acquired for Taijuan Walker in a deal with the Toronto Blue Jays a couple years ago, Alberto Rodriguez, outfielder now in High A Everett. He's 21 years old. Had kind of a sluggish start this year, but has figured it out as of late. Why is Rodriguez around your top 20 right now?
It's a good question. He's kind of an all bat prospect right now. But the exit velocity community loves him. When he hits the ball, he hits it very hard. He definitely has power. I would say it's probably 60 raw power, 55 game power. So he can hit home runs from the left side. He can hit doubles. When he hits the ball, he hits it extremely hard, but there are swing and miss issues here. And there are some pitch recognition issues here, mainly with breaking balls. He's not handling the breaking ball well. And at 21 years old and Modesto, It's not that he's out of time to figure that out. It's just that time is fast approaching. And it's also worth noting that Rodriguez is on the 40-man roster. So I would not say his spot is safe this winter by any stretch of the imagination. But there's still a lot of projection in the bat. There's still a lot of tools in the bat. The bat speed's fine. It really comes down to pitch recognition. He needs to start hitting the breaking ball. But he's probably going to be, average to fringe average in right field or left field, and he's got a very strong arm. So there's enough here that you can squint and see a major leaguer, and maybe one who, hits 250 with 30 home runs with, average defense in a corner outfield spot. But if he doesn't start hitting the breaking ball, then he's going to plummet down the rankings and probably plummet his way out of the Mariners organization when they DFA him this winter. So he's got a lot of work to do. He's trending in the right direction finally, but I think, the next couple of weeks are huge for him. And then if he can survive the winter on the 40-man, which we'll see, next year is going to be massive for him. If he doesn't end the year, swinging a pretty good bat in Double-A Arkansas, it's probably at end of his Mariners tenure. So a lot of pressure on him, but the tools are still there. He's still a very tooled up bat.
All right, so coming in at number 18 is Tyler Locklear, the Mariners' second-round draft pick this year. 21 years old, now in Low A Modesto. And this is kind of low, I would say, for a second-round draft pick. Does that say more about maybe you feeling this is a disappointing pick by the Mariners, or does it say more about the state of the farm system still for the Mariners?
Probably the former. Because here's the deal with Locklear, right? He's a first baseman.
Yeah.
There is, the Mariners say they think they can turn him into a decent third baseman. I don't believe them. He's not a great athlete on the field. He's got a strong arm, and I think he could maybe handle third base in a pinch, kind of in the same way Ty France can handle third base in a pinch. But he's a first baseman. So in order for him to have value to you, he has to hit, and he has to hit pretty big. So the good news is that the power is there. It might be 70 raw power, 60 game power, ton of home runs, even in wood bat leagues like Cod League. He had 9 home runs in the Cape Cod League. Draws walks, doesn't strike out a ton. There's not a ton of bat speed, which is pretty unusual for power hitters, but the swing is very smooth, and it's engineered to be, to kind of make up for the lack of natural bat speed. He's short through the zone. There's really no wasted movements in the swing. So for now, it's going to work, and I would assume that he's going to hit just fine in the low minors. When you start getting into Double-A, Triple-A, and you're adding in the breaking balls and the change-ups and all that stuff, we'll see how he performs. I really didn't know what to do with Locklear. He's so unique and weird, but this is a guy that the data community of the MLB draft loved. They loved this guy.
Yep.
I think Fangraphs even had him 34 overall in the entire class because of the data. So the data community loves him. That makes me intrigued. But I do read reports about slow bat, and I do look at, first base only, so he has to hit. There's just a tremendous amount of pressure on that bat. So for me, honestly, I don't know if this is too high, too low, just right. I don't know, because when the data community is fascinated by a guy, and you hear about the exit velo and you see the home runs that he can produce, you kind of get excited about him. But then you look at what the traditional scouts are kind of saying, and you're like, yeah, I see that too. So I don't know. I didn't know what to do with him, so I've stuck him here. This is a guy who could be top 10 next year. He could be outside my top 30 next year. I mean, I don't know what to think of him. He's off to a pretty nice start, though, for Modesto. So we'll see, but he has to hit. It's all bat for him.
Coming in at 17 now is the man the Mariners got for Donovan Walton earlier this year from the San Francisco Giants. Prelander Baroa, 22-year-old right-handed pitcher who's now at Double-A Arkansas. What do you like about Prelander Baroa, and what do you not like about him?
Yeah, Baroa is a really interesting guy, and quite a get for Jerry Dipoto for kind of a 4A utility infielder. Fastball 93 to 96, sometimes touches 97. Not a ton of movement on it, but he locates it very well. He's able to dot up the corners. It's probably 55 command with the fastball, 60 control. The velocity is good. So he's going to get value on the fastball. The slider it's kind of a firm slider. It's cuttery sometimes, but he also has but it also has a chance to be, a 60 grade pitch. So you kind of look at it and you go, okay, firm fastball that you can locate, and a slider that's plus at times. Right there, that's middle reliever. That's Matt Festa-esque. But I think there's a little more here because he tunnels the two pitches very well. They're thrown from the same arm slot. It's very hard to distinguish them, so he'll get a lot of ugly swings. He's also 5'11", but he somehow gets depth on the fastball. He stays on top of it very well. So it's kind of an interesting profile because he doesn't have the prototypical size you would imagine as a starter, yet he still gets the depth on the fastball that, typically is associated with height on a starting pitcher. So the changeup, it's a little hit or miss, and that's kind of why I have him this low. If he had an average changeup even, he'd probably be higher because I would like his chances to start. Doesn't have it right now. Doesn't mean he won't, but it's not there. So for me right now, when I look at this, it's a guy who is two good pitches, not elite command or control of the slider yet, and no third pitch to speak of. That's kind of a middle reliever to me, but and the slider could always get guys with good sliders. I forget sometimes, so there's a pretty good chance that that's going to come into play for him at some point.
All right, so we'll get into your number 16 in just a moment, but real quick, a reminder, this episode of Locked On Mariners is brought to you by Blue Nile. Whether you're ready to pop the question or you're celebrating a milestone moment, find jewelry as unique as the person you love with the modern convenience of online shopping at BlueNile.com. Blue Nile has simple online tools that let you choose the diamond shape, size, and clarity, as well as setting style. Blue Nile's bench jewelers will then handcraft their perfect engagement ring, and each ring will be a one-of-a-kind. Looking for fine jewelry but having trouble choosing? Blue Nile has jewelry experts on hand 24/7, available via phone or chat to help you find a memorable gift at every budget. Make your moment sparkle with jewelry from BlueNile.com, and going on now is the Blue Nile Anniversary Sale. Save up to 40% on classic fine jewelry pieces and 25% on engagement ring settings. Plus, every order is insured, ships free, and arrives in discreet packaging that won't give away what's inside. Shop stress-free and find your forever piece. Go to BlueNile.com today. This episode of Locked On Mariners is also brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your betting needs. Find all your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. Find reviews and news of every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sports wagering information, from live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts. They have you covered. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline is where the game starts. All right, so we're going to get into your number 16 prospect, then we're going to answer a couple of the leftover questions from our mailbag yesterday. Number 16 on your list, another recent draft pick of the Mariners, right-handed pitcher, 18-year-old prep pitcher, Ashton AJ Izzy. What do you like about Izzy?
Well, there's a lot to like here. We can start with the fact that he's 6'3" and weighs about $160. So there's plenty of projection left. He's going to get stronger. He's going to add muscle. He's going to add good weight. There's also a lot to like with the fastball. It's mostly right now 93, 94, but he's touched 97. There's some belief that, as he gets bigger, he adds more weight. He'll regularly, touch triple digits, even as a starter. So it's a very live arm. The slider is kind of fringy right now. It's a pitch that needs work. So is the changeup. But there's promise in both of them. Again, he's 18 years old. A lot of projectability here. He already has 1+ pitch, the fastball. And I would say that it's a pretty clean delivery, right? There's really no extra concern for injury. He actually hides the ball pretty well too. It's a little bit of a longer arm path, but he stays square. He's able to throw plenty of strikes, so it's not going to be an issue for him as well. So there's actually some deception to go along with his velocity. We'll see how the Mariners want to clean that up, or if they want to clean it up at all. But there is a lot to like with this arm. It's all upside with a guy like Ashton Izzy. So it's not as if he's a for sure thing, but he's a pitcher, a high school pitcher that the Mariners went over slot to get. I mean, that should be sending off alarm bells, right? The Mariners are pretty good at this. And so when you look at a guy like Izzy, who has just, projection out the ears, and he's already got a plus fastball with really good control and deception, there's just a lot to like here. Izzy is a guy who very easily could be top 5, in a year. He's got that kind of ceiling. We'll see though. He's only 18. Got to take it slow with him. He's not pitching this year. He'll start next year. I assume he'll probably start in the ACL, but there's a chance he starts in Modesto along with his draft classmate, Walter Ford, who we will talk about sometime next week.
Yeah, I was going to say the Vanilla Missile survives another round. He is even higher on your list. Let's go. All right, so let's get into these leftover questions that we have from our mailbag that we had yesterday. These are both from Twitter. Let's start with Jake Guerrero at Jake GUE129196164. Please maybe consider having less numbers in your username. Just a thought. Anyway, is the belief that Evan White is going to possibly be brought up? Looks like his stance is different. What are your guys' thoughts? Colby, Evan White has been at AAA now for the last couple days. He had a home run the other night. Mm-hmm. So what do you think about Evan White now in 2022?
No chance. He gets the big leagues. And he's going to be in AAA for most of next year as well, if he survives the 40-man roster.
That's true.
And if he, isn't traded. So I still believe in Evan White long term, but he is, I think, 26 now. We're kind of running out of time here. Again, not all of it his fault. There are some injuries at play here, very similar to Kyle Lewis, but also like Kyle Lewis, at some point it's put up or shut up time. And so the new stance, yes, it's nice, but ultimately, to me, the thing with Evan White has always been more of a game plan issue than a swing issue. Evan White always looked like he was trying to murder every single pitch that came his way. And it led to a ton of swing and miss that just isn't part of his game. So Evan White, to me, is going to be more valuable if he goes back to what he was in college, which was hit a lot of doubles, pretty good average, and then the home run power just kind of comes naturally. We know Evan White has out of the park power. We know he has that raw power in his back pocket. So for me, it's more about going back to hitting line drives, and then, picking your spots and maybe popping 25 home runs instead of trying to pop 35. That's a better profile for him. So we'll see what he does the rest of this year. I'm going to be watching him. He's a very interesting player to me still. But he's not, he has a lot of work to do to get back on the Mariners radar at all. And I don't doubt that he'll do the work. I just doubt that he'll see it through as a Seattle Mariner. So we'll see what happens. I'm rooting for him, but I'm not expecting anything from Evan White going forward.
Yeah. I still believe in Evan White, just like you. The gap-to-gap power, the easy home run power as well. Like the athleticism, of course, the well above average athleticism. I think eventually he could be a corner outfielder, and a pretty good one at that, defensively speaking. So, there's still potential there. It's just he's got to stay healthy. He's got to work on some things. He just needs a lot of time in AAA still, and to basically reinvent himself, because he has to do it. He has to do it now. If he wants a chance to get back at the major league level and succeed and have any sort of chance to succeed, he's got to reinvent everything that he's been doing basically at this point. And he's got to figure out a way to play with his new body, because obviously, the athleticism has probably diminished a little bit because of the injuries naturally. And so, he's got to figure that out too, being comfortable with his, diminished athleticism and figuring out how to succeed in spite of it. All right, so last question comes from neutral vibed Mariner fan. So you're staying gray, you're staying in the middle. All right, I like it. And they ask playoff ceiling and floor, and then put in parentheses, not making playoffs, question mark, for the Mariners. So what is the Mariners playoff ceiling and floor, Colby?
Yeah, the floor is they don't make it. That's totally possible. I still feel good that they're going to make it, but it's totally, of course it's possible that they don't make it. There's a lot of teams right behind them. It basically takes one bad stretch of baseball to knock you out. So yeah, that's the floor, is that they don't make it. The ceiling to me, it's probably the CS. it's just, I think once you get past the 3 and 5 game series, the Mariners kind of lack the rotation depth and the lineup to kind of, hang with either the Yankees or the Astros in the best of 7. So I think that's where they fall short. I don't think they're as deep as those teams, and 7-game series really are the separator here. Good news is wild card round is 3 games. The DS is 5 games, which means to get Ray and Castillo, to start 2 of the 3 games in the wild. You can get Castillo or Ray to start 2 of those games in the DS. So you're going to have a good shot. But once you get to a 7-game series, you're talking about, I need Logan Gilbert to pitch well against the Yankees because he's going to get 2 starts. I mean, you're telling me you feel good about that? Like, you better win those Ray and Castillo starts. But to me, it's the CS is kind of where they run out of steam. That they're not quite built for a 7-game series right now. So that's where I would say their ceiling is. But the floor is they don't make it at all. Their ceiling is they're a couple wins away from the World Series.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. I think this is where kind of the difference between roster construction of the top 2 teams in the AL and the Mariners, which I think has a pretty good shot of being the 3rd best team in the AL. It still shows you the disparity there between those 2 clubs and how they're built, and just what the difference is between those 2 teams and the rest of the league, really.
Yeah, I mean, like Yuli Gurriel, right, is like the worst everyday player for the Astros. He'd be like the 4th or 5th best everyday player for the Mariners. So it's just one of those things. You're just not quite built there. But hey, you know what? The beauty of the playoffs is it only takes one guy getting hot at the right time.
Yeah, that's true.
And it changes everything. So, ask the Braves about Eddie Rosario and Jorge Soler.
Yeah, who's the Mariners' Daniel Murphy, basically. Like
Travis Ishikawa. Like,
yeah, exactly. Maybe it's Curt Casali. That seems like a playoff name. That seems like a playoff hero name, right?
Yeah, it does. I mean, I think if anybody, it would probably be the emergence of Sam Haggerty.
Yeah.
The hero we deserve, but not the one we need. Like that's, so we'll see. But yeah, I think the CS is probably where they would cap out. But once you get into the playoffs, it's not all luck, but luck has a huge part of it.
Yeah, for sure. And good pitching. And that's why they prioritize pitching.
Which is why I gave them the CS instead of the DS, because they have very good pitching.
Yeah, yes, indeed. All right, that's going to do it for our show. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. For Colby Patnode, I'm Ty Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at LO_Mariners. You can follow Inside the Mariners at Inside Mariners. You can follow me at Dane Gonzalez, that's DaneGNZLZ, and Colby at CPAT11, that's CPAT11. You can also find all that stuff in the description of this episode, whether you're watching or listening to it. And thank you again for making us your first listen of the day. Now make your second listen the Locked On MLB podcast. MLB expert Paul Francis Sullivan brings humor, passion, and unique perspective on every team and the biggest stories around the league. Follow the #1 daily league-wide podcast, Locked On MLB, on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts just like us. And with that, have yourself a beautiful baseball weekend, and we'll see you on Monday. Peace.